Begin by getting the laptop and power cord from the Fellowship Hall crow's nest. When you get upstairs, turn the key from run to inhibit and turn the main power on if it isn't already on. After plugging the laptop into the wall, plug in the power cable, the HDMI cable, and the audio cable into the laptop. Turn the power on the laptop, and when it loads up, type in the password FUMC AV into the bar where the password goes. If you forget the password, it is written right here on the sticker. Once you have logged in, locate the traditional service. It'll say the word traditional on the desktop. Double click to open that in PowerPoint. Turn on both projectors by pressing the power on button once per each remote. If you want to check to see if they're on, you can walk over and make sure the green light is the last light lit on that side and this side as well. Turn on the camera by pressing the power button on the lower left-hand side. Viewfinder should come on and you should see the image on the screen. At 10:45, press the F5 key so that your presentation starts. At this point, you should be able to see it on the screen, though they're not turned on at the moment. But also, since things are just getting started, you want to make sure that your screen here, which is showing people what's happening, showing you what's happening in the chapel and nursery, is on the laptop. So if it's a green light here on laptop, you're going to want to hit this down button so it fades to red, and then they can see the slides before things get started. Check the soundboard to make sure that some of these channels aren't muted. The pulpit and the pastor's headset mic should probably never be muted. These choir mics, there's 4 of them, channels 9, 10, 11, and 12, might be muted at the beginning, but if the choir is singing, make sure they're all turned off. You definitely want to make sure the laptop channel, which is 23, is not muted, and you want to make sure the piano, which is 21, is not muted. Other things that might be happening, BJ will actually talk to you. If there's a microphone over by the piano, like over there, there's a microphone set up over there. It'll be for instrument 1 or 2, which are channels 20 and 22. If there's a guitar plugged in, that'll be channel 19. If there's an ensemble playing, like the handbell choir or the wind ensemble, they'll be set up where the piano is and the piano will be pushed back. Usually the situation there will be ensemble mic 1, which is channel 7, and ensemble mic 2, which is channel 17. And then one other thing is a possibility, if there's a microphone on the left side, which rarely happens, but if there's a microphone over there and people go to talk to it, that's the congregational left mic, and that is here, it's channel 13. At 10:55, before Pastor Kyle has started the announcements, you want to go ahead and start recording. You have to press record on 2 things. One, you have to press record on the HDMI capture device. It's this far right button that says record stop. When you press it, the word recording will come up on the screen, and the HDMI blue light will be flashing. It will flash the entire time it's recording, so if you don't see that blue light flashing, you're not recording. And just in case, at the same time, or within a couple seconds, press record on the camcorder, and you'll see the little red circle there that suggests that the camcorder is also recording. The only reason we're recording with the camcorder is in case something happens with the capture device that is capturing the audio from the soundboard and the video from both the laptop and the camera. We just want this recording as a backup. If you haven't already been referencing this sheet on what to do to get started, this is a great point in the service to get the sheet out, because on the back of the sheet is what you should see on this screen at every moment during the service. So as you can see, during the announcements, I'll just put this here for now. During the announcements, you'll be, anytime it's orange, that means it'll be the camera feed on here. Anytime it's blue, that means it'll be the laptop feed on this screen. So during the announcements, you'll switch to the camera feed. These buttons switch you back and forth between the camera feed. Watch, I press it, and then we see a camera, and then I press this one, and it goes back to the laptop feed. It'll fade between. Whichever one is red is the one you're currently on. So this is the laptop, and this is the camera feed. Green just means it's ready and you're getting a signal. So that's why you see 3 and 4. There's no signal to those, so there's no light. So for the announcements, you're on camera feed, so you switch to camera, and then try and focus the camera on whoever's making the announcement. So zoom in if you need to, and keep that focused on whoever is making the announcement. After the announcements are done, the acolyte will come forward, and for the acolyte, you'll follow them down the path as they light the candle. If you want to zoom in a little bit on them lighting the candle, that's fine. After they're done playing after they're done lighting their candle, you can pan over to whatever musician is playing the prelude. If it's the choir, you can pan back to the choir. And at the call to worship, you'll pan the camera over to the worship leader, and you'll always be able to look here to see what your camera's doing or in the viewfinder. And you'll zoom in on the worship leader, and they invite everyone to stand up for the call to worship. At that moment, as it says on this page right here, right when they say, everyone please stand for the call to worship, you'll switch to the laptop feed, so that the people at home, in the nursery, and the chapel can see the words to the call to worship. After the call to worship, they'll go straight into the hymn. Just leave it on the laptop feed and advance your slides so they coincide with the lyrics. So that's the opening hymn. Then those are the words. They'll be on the screen. They'll be on your screen as well, because remember, this screen is telling you what people downstairs and at home are experiencing for the worship. So as the words change, follow along with them and change the words as you need to. After the opening prayer is finished, you'll want to fade back to the camera feed so that you can see the choir singing the choir anthem. You can zoom in on the choir if you want to. Just make sure you have the entire choir in the shot while you're doing it, and you'll keep it on there. If there is no choir and there is someone doing special music over here, obviously you'll aim your camera over here, and whatever musician's playing will be in the camera so the people downstairs can see what's going on. For the children's moment, you'll pan the camera over to the kids. Get in close on the kids so you can see their expressions and stuff. The people downstairs in the nursery like to see that kind of stuff. And then for the prayer of illumination, which is right before the scripture, you'll go back up to the worship leader while they're doing the prayer. The prayer isn't on the slides, that's why you want to be on the camera feed. When the worship leader switches to the scripture, you switch to the scripture too, by pushing this back to the laptop feed and making sure you're advanced to the scripture slides. If the scripture slides are more than one page, then follow along with their words and move along with the words. If it's long, just keep going. Once the sermon begins, you don't have to advance slides anymore. Kyle will take care of that. And you'll start out the sermon on the camera feed. So you'll pan back to the camera feed and just make sure Kyle is in the frame. If you want to make it something wide like this, so it's both offering plates are in the shot and he's pacing back and forth, that's fine. During the sermon, and this is where your discretion will come in, if he puts a new slide up on the screen and refers to it, go ahead, when he refers to the slide, go ahead and switch to the slide so that people can read the slide. And if he reads, it's mentioned 29 times in Matthew, whatever he says when he's reading the slide, keep it on the slide. But after he's finished reading the slide, or if you've had enough time to read it yourself, push the button to go back to the camera feed so we can see him. You'll go back and forth as he refers to the slides, so you have to look at the slides. If the best rule of thumb here is if you feel you're looking at the projector screen to see what the slide says because he's talking about it, then you should flip this so the people downstairs can also see it. And always after a second of reading or so, switch back to the camera feed. And do that for the entire sermon. When the sermon is over, we'll move into the offertory hymn. For the offertory hymn, you'll have to switch back to the laptop feed because you'll want the lyrics to the offertory song up on the screen. So you'll have to switch these as the song moves as well. But for the people downstairs and at home, they'll want to see the lyrics. And that's true for the doxology as well. And then for the prayer, when it gets to this pray together slide, that means we're back to the congregation. So switch back to the camera feed so you can see the pastor praying. And if there's communion, do that as well. But zoom out a bit. I'm doing this on the camera. Zoom out a bit so you can see the people coming and taking communion, whether at the rail or by intinction. People downstairs would want to see that as well. So bear that in mind. If there's a song during communion, you'll actually switch to whatever the lyrics are on the laptop feed. And then you'll do that for sure for the closing hymn. So when it's finished communion and prayer, for the closing hymn, you'll switch back to the laptop feed and you'll advance the slides as necessary. When that song is over, you'll be back on the pastor for his benediction. Zoom in if you want to, however you feel like you want to do it. And leave it on him until he says, go in peace, wherever the closing words are. And if there are musicians other than BJ that are doing something over here for the postlude, go ahead and focus on that, because you're going to want to be able to see what they're doing so that it's still on the camera mode for the musicians. If it's just BJ playing the organ or something, you don't have to keep going on that. And then as the announcements start to shuffle back through, you're going to want to go back to the laptop feed. So anyone that wasn't here before the service can go downstairs, or who's downstairs can see the announcements they missed at the beginning, and it'll cycle through. When that is finished, when the service is finished, you want to flip over here to see what the closing things to do. And it says around 12 p.m., you'll stop recording on both these things. So you'll press that same button on the right that said record stop. When you press it, you'll see the word stop recording. And it'll flash green and blue for a second, and then it'll go to normal blue. That means you did your job right. You want to go ahead and stop recording on this as well, and the red circle will turn into 2 green lines. Once that's all finished, you want to go ahead and power the camera down by pushing the power button on the inside bottom. You'll want to go ahead and turn off the main power on the sound cabinet. You want to power down both projectors by pressing the standby button twice. And if you want to double check to make sure you turned them off, that's a good thing. The light that was green should now be yellow on both projectors. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy by walking so fast. Yeah, so the fact that they're both yellow and not green is a good thing. You want to turn this key back from inhibit so it's pointing at run again. And lastly, you'll want to disconnect the cables from the laptop, the HDMI, the audio, and the power, and take the laptop back down to the desk.